Welcome to Burns White, Inside the Law. Here with another dear friend of mine, Elizabeth Stefanski, who is a partner in our Conshohocken office. How you doing, Liz?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I had to drag Liz on here, she's kicking and screaming. And she's one of the most humble people you meet and one of the best lawyers that we have here at our firm. Liz, so we're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about your practice.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask some questions like I've done with some other people. Let's say with them, okay?
All right, I'm in the hot seat.
All right, let's get to know Liz Stefanski.
Okay.
All right, Liz, so when did you first start at Burns White?
So I've been here 13 years. I started when my oldest daughter turned 1. I graduated law school in 2009. I went to Villanova for undergrad, went to Widener in Delaware for law school. And I always wanted to litigate. That's what I wanted to do. But I came out and it was during the recession. OE had just happened. There wasn't many jobs out there for young litigators. So I took contract jobs, anything to get by. I finally landed my first litigation role. I did products liability in Philadelphia for a defense firm, and I loved it. I absolutely fell in love with every aspect of it. I did some construction while there, had some trial work experience. The reason I ended up leaving that practice, that firm, was just the travel commitments. I got a job interview here when my daughter was 1, like I said, and I fell in love with it. The individuals I interviewed with really need conscious effort to focus on the work-life balance here. And that has rang true for the 13 years that I've been here.
Okay, who'd you interview with?
Actually, it was Bill Mundy,
Okay.
who I had the...
We're going to get him on. We're going to get him on this thing. I can tell you.
Yeah, he's one of my friends, mentors, colleagues, partners. I've had such a great relationship with him and all of the attorneys on our group.
You're like the only one. Everyone else hates him. I'm just kidding.
You might have to cut that. No, Bill's wonderful. I mean, he's so well known in the industry. I came on doing professional liability claims with him, like medical malpractice and nursing home cases. I knew nothing about a nursing home chart. I tell the associates when they first start, I'm like, I was you. I didn't know it. I had to learn from scratch. It took time. You'll get there. And the partners that I worked with when I first started here really brought me up to speed and made me who I am today as a litigator. So I did the professional liability work for several years, representing nursing homes, rehabs, individual providers that I love. And then an opportunity arose maybe 3 to 5 years ago where we had an increased growing need for employment litigation work. And I started working with a partner developing that practice group. And that's what I've been mostly focused in on.
That's what you're doing now, right?
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Let me just we'll get this in a second. Just backtrack because
Sure.
people like to hear more background stuff sometimes. So I can get to know you a little more.
Okay.
So since I know you really well, we happen to be one of the people on here that I know really well because you're one of my dear friends in the firm. That's a disadvantage for you when it comes to this podcast because I can bring up personal
Yes,
stuff.
let's
Well, you've been married for how long now?
So my husband and I will celebrate 17 years this August.
And you met in college, right?
We met in college. We actually just had our college friends down the shore. So we were reminiscing about that most recently this weekend. So we met. He's an engineer. I'm an attorney. I've never married an attorney because you want to not be able to talk shop. We have 3 beautiful kids. Our oldest is 14. She's going to high school next year.
Kira, right?
Kira.
Right.
She keeps us on our toes with all of her different, issues that arise. She fractured her ankle last summer.
I remember.
And then
Volleyball injury, right?
Yeah, my middle one is Hayden. He's going to the 7th.
Well, you're quite the volleyball player yourself, right?
I mean, at 5 foot, you wouldn't imagine that. But my claim to fame is as a setter, and I did coach for several years. This is the first year I'm not coaching, so I'm kind of like a little sad about it. But I'll wait till my youngest.
So is it like a high school volleyball?
Yes, that was like the top career for me was high school.
That's more than most.
If you say so.
I bet you right now, if we went outside right now, you'd be able to set somebody up.
Yes, we were actually playing on the beach this weekend. Okay. So the kids love it.
So you're the person you want to pick, like on the 2.
I mean, not if you're looking for height, but yes, if you need a setter, definitely sign me up. I like to do that. I love coaching. It was fun. I did 7th and 8th grade CYO volleyball. It was really fun. We obviously won because I'm super competitive, but the girls had a good time.
And you have 2 other kids, right?
Yep. Hayden is my middle one. He is can I say psychotic soccer player?
No. Yeah, you can. It's fine. Right?
He's in a pretty high level competitive soccer team. They practice 3 to 4 times a week. My husband and I joke who's actually going to work or get into practice because the practices are 45 minutes away. They're 2-hour practices. So we have to kind of juggle that. on top of the other kids' sports. They're all involved in like multiple sports. So he does that and lacrosse and basketball. And then Kira, like I was saying, does dance, volleyball, and soccer is her sport as well.
And the third?
And the youngest is 8, Harper. They always said like the third would be the
He's
easiest.
a cutie, Harper.
That's not really.
Last time I saw him, he was pretty cute.
Yeah,
so.
she's challenging. She's so she's 8. She's super smart, very sarcastic, very witty. I don't know where she gets it from at all. But she's great. Yeah, she started getting involved with some sports as well.
All right, so soccer mom, volleyball mom.
Yeah, we're just doing it all.
And somehow you managed to build a litigation practice that is thriving.
It's a team effort, I would say.
And you did, and now this employment group. Like,
yeah,
tell us more about that.
Starting to take off. I would say, like always at Burns White, we've had like a very robust employment group practice, mostly out of Pittsburgh, and on this side of the state, outside of Philadelphia, we've had a lot of attorneys, and we've been trying to most recently grow this practice group on this side of the state, which is starting to go really well.
Not to keep harping on this, but just me personally, it's one of the things I really admire about you is you had all 3 of your kids here, right? Well, I mean,
I came here when
started
Kira was
with
1.
Right, yeah.
So she was 1 year old, and then yes, I went on 2 maternity leaves while I've been here. I was here about a year and a half when I had Hayden, and then several years later I had Harper.
Right. If you had to like give some advice to, anyone who is, looking to work in litigation, work in a law firm, and take the path that you have and have a family, and basically do it all, what would you say?
Like, come to work here. No, honestly, I mean, you have to have a firm that is supportive. Like, point blank, you have to work with people that, like you, appreciate you, and know that you're gonna do a good job at work if you feel supported at home too. I hate the phrase work-life balance because I think I've mentioned this before. I think it's more like a pendulum swing. Some days, especially like when you're preparing for a mediation or trial, you're gonna be all in at work and less in at home. And then sometimes like your kid's graduating or has a big game, you need to be all in there and be present for them. So you need to find a firm, and it's not just the people that you report to, it's the people you surround yourself with that will really like come in, go to bat for you.
No, like I know you and your husband have this meeting. Is it like a yearly meeting or something? You're not gonna bring that up.
This is like a little embarrassing. I actually hope he maybe doesn't watch this. Yes, we kind of have like we call it an annual like State of the Union address. New Year's Eve day each year, we go to White Dog Cafe. We switch it up based on location, but essentially have the same meal, and we really just talk about goal setting. What do we do individually for our goals? As a couple, as a family unit, and then we also talk about our professional goals. Some years you're going to lean in and out of professional. Some years you're going to be like, all right, this is the year I want to try to make a partner or equity partner. I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I need that support at home to do that. Some years you're going to say, we're going to have a kid, and one of us is going to have to be home a little bit more. Or like I said before, you're going to have a really competitive soccer player that you're wondering if you should just put your job on hold to take those practices.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm sure volleyball makes it in there too.
Volleyball makes it in there sometimes, but yeah, we try to and then we look back too. We look, what did we accomplish this year? What goals did we set and maybe not meet, and how can we do a better job to achieve that?
Okay. And the employment practice. I have some questions to ask you before I get into that. I have to talk about your employment practice as far as what type of services are you providing your clients, what kind of cases do you have, and tell us a little bit about your group after you sip that water.
Just too much talking about myself. Usually I'm on the other end of this, like taking a position, so not used to this so much.
And that's why I'm asking questions.
I want to switch roles at some point. So about the employment practice. So generally we could get, we have different insurance carriers, and then we have like private clients. So 2 different ways the cases will come in, or that will be marketed. I really enjoy the employment because of the complexity and the variety of it. For example, one day you might get a case in where you're defending a rehab facility. The next case you're defending a daycare. Then you're defending a landscaping company. So it's really interesting to learn different individuals' businesses and how they function and operate. I really love when I get a case pre-suit and I get to like meet with the individuals and counsel them throughout the process. What are strengths and weaknesses of the potential claims that come through the door. If we are pre-suit, I'll give them general counseling and guidance about how to avoid litigation if possible, or what to do, once litigation occurs. Otherwise, usually I get retained at the time that a charge is filed at the agency, or potentially when the lawsuit's initiated in state or federal court.
Okay. All right, let's get some questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, let's see. You say you love employment law, so a lot of these questions are employment law related.
Can I phone a friend? Or...
I think you'll be all right. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So, first question: when an employer resigns due to intolerable working conditions created by when an employee resigns due to intolerable working conditions created by the employer.
I mean, this would never happen here ever, but it's constructive discharge.
And that's also, we have employees who have very high tolerance for employment conditions. You know,
No, we have a great. I mean, one, we have a great HR department.
I mean, like we can't like tank the coffee, right, and force people to leave.
I mean, that would never happen.
Right.
Of course, yeah, coffee's priority number one here. But yes, constructive discharge. You would see that a lot of times. Like the claims come in, usually you get a discrimination or a disability claim. And then we have a component of maybe retaliation, wrongful termination, or constructive discharge. Constructive discharge, a lot of times there's like a hostile environment type situation. For example, employer-employee, you go to your employer, you say, I'm not happy, this is happening, this person's bullying me, this person's allowed to leave early, I'm not allowed to leave early. You look at the different variances and how people are treated and this disparate impact.
Yeah. Next question?
Sure.
Okay. A person who reports illegal or unethical conduct by the employer and is protected from retaliation.
Okay, whistleblower.
Okay.
Thankfully, we don't see.
I'm not going to ask you too hard questions.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to trick you up too much. You know, this is the Burns Way podcast.
I feel like I'm like at the bar exam happening this week. I'm feeling anxiety for some of our, summer clerks that are sitting there taking it today, and wishing them well, of course. I know they'll all pass, but no, that's what a whistleblower. We don't get too many whistleblower cases. I feel like they're more publicized in the media than really what happens.
That's interesting to hear that.
Yes, and a lot of times they're like, I guess they get dealt with a lot of times too pre-suit, so it gets picked up. A lot of times you want to keep your clients out of the public eye as much as possible.
Sure.
Claims.
I mean, do they allege them a lot in complaints that they're the whistleblower? And like,
no, not really. I mean, it depends if there's the type of action that they're seeking. Sometimes you'll see like a federal case that has one or two, but generally we don't see too many whistleblower claims. Okay,
that's more like an episode of Suits or something, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Not really employment related, but your name is Elizabeth, so famous Elizabeths.
Oh.
All right, let's see how you do with this, right?
Wow, this is not disgusting.
The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, she reigned over Great Britain from 1558 to 1603.
Oh my God, this is a nightmare situation. I feel like I watched The Crown, so I'm gonna go with Queen Elizabeth. Don't ask me if it's like first, second.
It's the first, yeah.
Okay.
That is the point. We do it again. I figured you would get the Elizabeth part of it,
I Elizabeth in the name.
Yeah, you would think, it's the Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay, all right. I mean,
was like a 50. Was she in the Crown?
Well, I think it's, they all repeat the same name.
Oh, no, this was the second in the Crown, I think. Yeah, she's more like the Tudors.
Listen, I just need a week off. I'm gonna get into all these shows. I'll come back on. I'll have better response.
All right, let's get back to some of the employment questions.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Is there a definition as to what qualifies as a disability?
So there's both statutory and regulatory type definitions as well as case law based on your state that you're in at the time of the allegation. But it's both like a medical and mental health disability that impairs your ability to conduct work or work life.
Okay. Is there as far as disability is concerned, has there been any kind of change in the industry as far as because in society, you see a lot of different things that people are doing with society. How does that impact as far as the type of disability claims that we're seeing now, as opposed to what we saw 10, 15, 20 years ago?
I think the biggest change that we've seen is more an increase in the mental health disability type claims. So you're seeing people that are alleging like depression, anxiety, a lot of burnout type situations involving work. Ever since COVID in 2020, we've seen that increase over the years. So that's definitely a focus point in the industry.
Because people affect things differently, right? Like one person can have a diagnosis of something and it doesn't really impact them. What other people do.
Correct.
Like how does it what is that threshold as far as what's a disability?
So I'm gonna kind of back you up a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The first thing you wanna do as an employer is you wanna make sure you have one great HR department. But a lot of times our clients are really small, so they might not have an HR department. They might have like payroll, HR, and an assistant all wrapped up in one. So having outside counsel help them navigate like their handbooks, their employee documents, really goes a long way to kind of prevent these types of claims. And then really educating your staff and other employees and your management really, when somebody reports a disability or potential disability, what do you do? And a lot of times what you're gonna have to do is, ask some questions, and do it really in a professional manner, because it's delicate, involves people's medical situations. But going over, and what kind of accommodation they need, is it a complete disability where they can't work at all? Is it that they need to come in part-time or a reduced schedule? Or can they, they have to use an assistive device like a cane or a wheelchair and they can only work on like the first floor of the building. And mental health is sometimes more challenging. It's not a visible disability, for example, somebody fractures their leg and they have a boot and they need that type of accommodation for a bit. It's harder to address sometimes the depression or anxiety type claims. And a lot of times it's the documentation with the physicians and the employers.
It's a good point that you kind of mentioned as far as, I know we're talking like litigation before, I know your background's litigation, but with employment, I would say like prevention as opposed to like litigation, is that something that is stressed in your?
I think so. I mean, I think it should be. I actually discuss, I usually, if I get a new client, it's because of litigation, right? There's the charge that's been filed with the complaint, and we go through the whole litigation process together. That's really my favorite time because I get to, one, explain to them the employment claims and we get to develop our defense strategy together. But a lot of times after that case resolves or, tries to verdict, they come back and say, hey, can I retain you or hire you separately so you can review handouts or employee files, or you can come in and educate our staff. And I love doing that because it's a preventative measure. So they don't have to involve
less pressure too, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's like a little bit less pressure, but you're kind of like digging at the ground and saying like, all right.
But we like pressure, but I mean, for the clients, it's a little bit
like,
like,
actually need
right,
for their business. Each business is really unique. So that's what I love about the employment litigation.
And that's a service you offer, I guess.
Yes, with counseling and risk management and any type of like commercial or contractual agreements. You might have non-competes, you might have non-disclosures. We handle all that.
Okay. Coming back to the famous Elizabeth.
I guess.
All right. This one, I know your husband will get this one. Let's see if you get it. This famous Elizabeth, known as the First Lady of Wrestling, was famously married to this man who was a two-time WWF or WWE champion, known to snap into a Slim Jim.
Wait, Hulk Hogan?
No, it's Hulk Hogan. He just died actually.
I know, I just saw. Yeah. Oh wait, wasn't that his like the slap into the Slim Jim?
No.
Who was it?
Randy Macho Man Savage.
I'm really.
Your husband's gonna be so
I feel
disappointed.
like
you're like, that's fine. I have a lot of disappointed viewers.
Wait, what's the answer then?
Randy Macho Man Savage.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, one more Elizabeth question. You should get this one. I think I know. This iconic British American actress was a major Hollywood star in the 1950s and 1960s and known for films like Cleopatra and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
You do know I was born in 1983, right? So
yeah.
I'm gonna go with. I have no idea.
Oh wow! Okay, all right. Let's say it's not an employment-related question.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't a complete utter fail.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's all right.
That's
okay. All right, let's go back and let's end on an employment question to make you get your feelings back.
I want the views back up.
Yeah.
Someone actually was talking about.
All right, a written complaint submitted to a regulatory body or agency filed by an employee against an employer.
So that's going to be called a charge, and that will usually be filed at either the EEOC or the PHRC or potentially even the Philadelphia Commission.
Okay.
That's what a lot of times starts these type of cases. You'll get a charge in, unless you get like a demand or preservation notice ahead of time. But the charge tells you kind of what the case is about.
Okay.
Then you get to go and file what's called a position statement, which most litigators would think is kind of akin to almost like a mediation or pre-trial. But it's before you conduct any discovery. There's no deposition, so you only each have your side of it.
Sure.
So it's interesting. The employee attorney just gets the employee side.
Yeah,
usually it's like limited to no documentation, and they just have to take their version.
that's got to be like,
So a lot of times I have to have these frank discussions.
let's talk about the facts.
Right,
Like,
right. And I'm like, and I'm usually willing and able, with client permission to give certain information or documents away early on to say, this claim maybe doesn't have as much merit as you think it does, and here's why. And I go through and kind of disseminate their case.
Do a lot of those cases get resolved like before, like early on, or like?
I think a lot of the EPL matters you try to, if you can. I mean, you evaluate every case differently. So some you're like, this is 100% defensible, we need to take it through, or it needs to get dismissed. Whereas other ones you're saying, there's potentially some claims here, so let's look at a potential early resolution. And you have to have everyone on board for that. Your client has to consent. If there's insurance carrier involved, they need to also be on board. And you want to work through that as early as possible, because with employment cases, as opposed to many other, in the event you go to a verdict, maybe they get awarded $1, $100, the plaintiff's attorneys automatically get all of their attorney's fees.
Right.
And
that's my next question. What is the remedy in those claims? Like as far as for the.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get damages, a lot of it's emotional distress type damages.
Oh, they get those things, okay.
Mhm.
Back pay and stuff.
Back pay, front pay, so you're gonna see that, emotional distress, if they actually treat it, maybe they went to a physician, or maybe they had heart
Medical
palpitations. Psychologist, psychiatrist, there's those type of liens that you're gonna see, but a lot of times the buildup is associated with, the attorney's fees and cost.
Okay, so they get awarded fees and costs even for an agency charge?
No, that's only if they go to verdict.
Oh, okay.
So, but of course, with all the demand letters, they build in what, potentially.
That's a separate claim, right, as opposed to what you see in the,
So the charge will usually mimic the complaint.
Sure.
It will outline, maybe there's a discrimination, or a disability type claim, retaliation, wrongful termination, but there's also gonna be a claim for, back pay, front pay, emotional distress, and attorney's fees.
Okay.
So we try to look at it and make, a business decision with our clients to say, this is our recommendations, this is what we would recommend, but ultimately it's your decision.
Yeah, unless one of those claims where the guy just has a vision in his mind as far as what happened, and then reality is.
And doing this, sometimes you get astronomical demands.
Right,
and you're like, great, this makes it easy, we just get to litigate.
Right.
And, I love taking depositions. I love doing the background research and everything for written discovery, building up your case in the back end.
Do you get that in the agency charges claims or agency claims?
So sometimes we'll exchange a little bit of discovery. Usually you don't take depositions. Again, it's a cost. So it's until you're in litigation, you'll save that for the deposition. You're building up your case from the very beginning.
Okay.
I'll usually meet with the, owners. I'll meet with the employees involved. We'll do facility interviews. Sometimes also we'll do investigations and see, potentially if there's issues ahead of time.
Yeah. So I mean, as somebody who is still primarily does the medical malpractice nursing home cases, I gotta imagine these cases can be pretty interesting to have now. There's probably some good stories.
Some of the good stories. Some of them I can't share.
Of course not, right? You're probably a fun person to hang around though at a cocktail party,
Each time I think, I'm like, wow, this can't happen, or like, there's no
It's like
way.
Jerry Springer, right? Is that show still on? It's not
I
anymore.
don't
But
know.
that's
The only last time I watched, I was in 8th grade when I had mono, so
Right.
I can't really say if it's
Right.
on or not. But yes, some of the stories are outrageous. You could never ever make them up. It gives you, what not to do, stories
Right.
to tell other potential clients, and you learn a lot from each of them.
Yeah, you learn about people too, I guess, right?
That's the best part of it. I honestly think it's like the meeting, counseling, and having those discussions, because everyone operates differently. Every business is different. So I get to intimately know these individuals and their business and really develop a defense strategy, cohesively with them. And that's what I really enjoy about this practice in particular.
Okay. All right. Well, I've taken up a lot of your time. Let's end with this. As far as your practice.
is really the retention and the recruitment of really talented litigators is where I'm most excited about, I'll say.
Okay, well, glad to be here with you and watching this group grow and watching you grow as a lawyer and being on your team.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Liz. The information contained in this podcast is considered an outline intended to be supplemented by an attorney. The information is not legal advice and should not be considered as such. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments regarding this episode, feel free to email us at podcast@burnswhite.com.